Hey, everyone.
What's going on, everybody? Let's get the horns going.
Wait, am I looking here or there?
Looking at the
Okay.
camera.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Who's here with us today? Who is here? Who is here? Who is here? So we can shout you out.
Yeah, we got about 8 people, 11 people that are have tuned in. I know it's been a while since we've been. What, took 2 weeks off?
No, just one.
One?
Just last week we didn't come on.
Yeah.
We didn't come on last week again because tell them why.
I have no idea.
So last week was a really beautiful day in Texas. Of course, Sabbath and wanting or needing to rest. We decided to take some impromptu.
Yeah.
Impromptu family pictures. So we got dressed. We got the girls dressed, and they were like ready to. What's that for?
That means we were doing our thing. Brush your shoulders off.
Okay, but anyway, they were excited for the first time because our girls taking pictures with them is like pulling teeth. Like they don't want to take pictures, they hate it. And so surprisingly they smiled and they were very happy while taking the pictures. And I'm sure it's because it's outside, it's nature, they got a chance to run around where we took pictures, so it was really nice.
Yeah. So we have fun doing that, and me taking pictures like pulling teeth as well. I'm not really into taking pictures, but thanks to my main lady right here, my main squeeze, she has talked me into it. So that's a whole new venture, a whole new thing that I'm jumping into, taking pictures. Let me mute that. Okay, here we go. So, 14, 15 people, where are you from? Who's watching? We can't see who's watching unless you make comments. So we just want to know that you are still at your computer or your device and that you haven't gotten up and walked away. Just hit us up in the comments or in the section or something like that. So nevertheless, and for everybody that puts a comment in the next few minutes, you will get our special horns. Let me give you a sample of what the horns are like. You should already know by now if you've been rocking with us. Oh, Jasmine Monroe.
What up, Jasmine?
Horns.
What up, Scott from Harlem?
Scotty from Harlem, USA.
What up, Marie? What up, Don?
Yo,
What up, Auntie Merlin?
Are you watching us from Guyana?
She sure is.
2 horns. Yes. Live from the BX Don.
Oh, he's
L.
not from live from New York today.
Nah,
he's live from the Bronx.
He has pinpoint his location. Yo, he's not on the run no more. Yo, Kimon is here.
What up, Kimon?
Yo, check how the name rhymes. Christine Green.
What up, Christine?
All right, we love you. We appreciate you rocking with us and for tuning in. Our I was telling Carlene, our views on YouTube have been increasing.
Awesome.
It's good, man, and I hope people are, enjoying the content and what we've been talking about, and praying that it blesses them. It's just our lives. It's just the life that we live.
Yeah, and trying to be as authentic and as open and free. A lot of times, conversations like this aren't, or the conversations that we've had aren't necessarily conversations that are had out in the open on this platform. Or even in private, right? Or even in your circles. I don't know, maybe not, but I know that I'm sure a lot of mistakes, a lot of those unknowns could be avoided if you just kind of know and get the experience from someone else, and it could kind of teach you or help you to navigate certain things in your marriage, in your life period. So yeah.
I mean, you think about our generation. We didn't have a YouTube, or we didn't have an Instagram. We didn't have a Facebook, or
especially on the Sabbath. We had a what you would call it? We had AY.
We had AY, right?
AY was like, well, it wasn't really I mean,
AY was if you were Adventist and you grew up in this church, AY was skits, right? A whole bunch of skits.
It was plays, and they used to have panel discussions.
But it wasn't like this.
No. It was definitely not a husband and wife necessarily being open and transparent. You know.
And if you stayed for AY, the only reason was because your church was having a social
at the
or you waiting for the basketball game to start, so you go to that, or you had some real strict parents. And then also too, we knew in New York, I don't know about other states, but it was blasphemy to take off your church clothes. Like, if you had church in the morning, you had to stay in your church clothes.
No.
You used to go home.
Even if you didn't go home, like you used to...
What, take off your tie?
No. You used to have change of clothes.
Nah, I ain't bring no change of clothes.
Nah, like...
I was too lazy to do
There was church attire, like divine worship attire, and then there was AY attire.
Oh, okay.
And then if you have like a basketball game or a social to go to, then you also have to change as well.
That was the only time we changed. So, all right, we're going to get into our topic today, but I know we got some few Adventists that are watching this right now. Did you walk with change of clothes for AY? I bet you
maybe
90%.
Going home. Maybe you go home. Maybe you went home.
That's right.
You stayed in church clothes from Sabbath school to board meeting.
Oh, Lord. If your parents on the board, nah.
But I remember maybe because I lived so close to my church.
Yeah.
I went home and I changed. You know, like after lunch, we had like...
Gary said he had change of clothes.
See?
That's
and like
crazy.
the change of clothes, of course, it was like the Adventist AY attire was denim skirt. You remember them denim skirts? And it couldn't be them short denim skirts. It had to be like below the knee or by your shin, and then like a white shirt or something like that.
The only change of clothes that I had when growing up in my church was take off my tie. And then one time the pastor saw me with no tie on, and he asked me if I'm going to a club.
What?
And I'm like, first of all, bro.
For real?
Yeah.
That happened in real life?
Happened in real life.
Nah, son.
First of all, bro, nobody don't wear suits to clubs no more, right? But yeah, that's the kind of church I grew up in. So
wow.
Jasmine Monroe says it was one clothes.
And we went to the same church. So you know what? Jasmine didn't go home. That's the thing. Like, if you stayed in church, more than likely... If like you had potluck at church, more than likely you didn't change your clothes. But for me, we went home, so I changed my clothes.
From Sabbath school, from sun up to sundown, you in that hot suit.
Or them tight stockings.
And like, I don't know about anybody else, but when I was that age, I only had two suits. It was either a black suit. Every kid in that picture, you got one black suit.
Right.
Hey, your parents bought you that black suit because you was going to be a deacon when you grow up in the church.
And then you were a deacon in training.
I used to wear that black suit with two socks, with everything.
Have mercy.
But anyhow, that's not what we came to.
I know, but it's good to reminisce on those days, because I don't know which church right now is having AY, even pre-COVID. What church was having like a vibrant AY, because AY is not, even if it is, they're having AY, it's not like what we had growing up.
Yeah. Jasmine basically said you were privileged because the older generation definitely changed.
Yep.
Y'all could go home.
Yep.
Poor Jasmine, she had to sit there in her church business suit. She's one of her church
No,
friends.
Jasmine this was dress. Also like, I'm sure I've seen Jasmine in dresses, but you remember back in the day where you had to wear you had a black skirt, right? Or a white top or a button down top as your church attire. Like, and then girls, our parents used to dress us in those suits. Remember them? Not Anne Klein. What was that? What was that brand of suits, women's suits? Oh my goodness, I can't even remember. Dang, what was it called? But those suits were so popular. Everybody was wearing a skirt suit, which was so uncomfortable.
Church was so Sabbath was so dreadful, man. Like, we would be, especially in the summertime.
Because that sun.
The sun be mad. Like, we'd be outside playing, and church shoes and church. And then what was worse was my church, when Dunamis first started, it was in my neighborhood. So people would see me that I knew, and I was trying to like, yo, hide or go inside. Oh man, those some days. Those kids, I don't know if kids have it like that no more. At least I don't see it down here in the South.
Probably not. No, I don't think they go outside. Honestly, they don't go. You don't see kids playing outside anymore. But
yeah, we used to pretend like we were playing basketball. We had no basketball.
But honestly, those are the times where you really bonded, like with your friends, like you know, like you were all in this together. You know that this is what you do every Sabbath. And then you're looking forward to the evening hang, right? You guys remember the evening hang? Like either you're going to somebody's house or, as I said, basketball games or socials, or you know that another church has a social and you're like, yo, I'm going to catch the bus to go to that social. Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, basketball games. That's what bridged the gap between Brooklyn and Bronx and Manhattan. That's when we all used to come together. But other than that, you know, Sabbath evenings when you got older, you getting on the train and you're going to Vegetarian Paradise.
Or you're going to the movies, or you're going to
somebody's house.
Somebody's house, game night. Oh, I miss those days for sure. Yes, Janelle. Yeah. Those are some really good times that we shared. Yeah.
Social. Or you were going to some church social. Some church you heard, yo, they having social over there. Can't believe we were calling it social. You know, because only Adventists understood what that was.
That's Adventist lingo. But when you think about it, like socials were off like the chain. Like either you're going there to hook up with a dude or a girl. You're going there just to have fun. It's anything better than sitting in your house.
Yeah, if you go into a social at another church, you coming fresh, too.
Oh, yeah. Like you planned first of all, you planned your outfit before the sun went down.
That's right. You're like, yo, I'm going to wear this and I'm going to wear that. I'm going to be, killing it when I go to that other church.
Yo, what up, Shamika? Yes, the Federation Youth Days. Oh, my goodness.
Or Vincentian Day. And
Vincentian Day. Let me tell you about Vincentian Day.
But this is like New York stuff now. I don't know if they used to have that down here.
But Federation Days, listen, that was like the fashion show of the... It was Federation Day, and then you had, what's the other thing called? Camp Victory Lake. Camp meeting, right? Yeah. So those were the two, like, I'm stepping out. I'm wearing my best of the best. And I'm going to make sure that everybody sees me.
Yo, can we just segue for a little bit on that
Sarah.
Topic? What's up, Sarah, Leah. Scott, Horn, Sarah, and Leah? Yes,
and Shamika.
And Shamika, we want that vegetarian. Shout out to Vegetarian Paradise for putting us on to good vegetarian food.
I miss that place.
All right, I just want to transition before we get into our topic.
Okay.
All right, and here it is. How about the absurdity of Camp Victory Lake and dressing up for that? Because that was a fashion show. And that was like the silliest fashion show in the world.
It really was.
Especially the youth tent.
Yes.
And I'm not going to sleep on the adult tent too, because they had some women in the adult tent and some men. There was one brother that used to always wear a lime green suit to Camp Victory Lake. Like I could see him from like, I'd be at the youth tent and I'll see him at the adult pavilion across the other side.
Well, you're right. The adults, they dressed up even more.
Yeah.
Like they dressed for church.
Yeah, and then if you got there late, if you're an adult, you couldn't sit in the pavilion. You had to sit outside in the overflow, and it's mad hot.
Yes, Janelle, them heels. Like, first of all, oh my goodness. For those of you who are New Yorkers, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you who aren't, picture wherever your camp is, right? And usually the runway for the youth tent was that top of that hill, right? Listen, you are on top of that hill and you better be coming correct. You listen, because everybody and their mother is watching whoever's coming down that hill to see what you wearing.
That's right. Dudes be like having their car. First of all, it's dust and they trying to keep their car clean. It's gonna get dusty.
And you're wearing heels, right? Like your heels are sinking in the dirt because you're just like, yo, I'ma be cute.
And they be mad hot, yo. Guys wear their shoes out there, the dust from the shoes. I think when I got older, I looked at this like this is stupid. Why?
Why are we driving? What was it, like an hour and change?
Yeah, to dress up on some dirt and walk around. I was like, I'm done. I'm not doing this no more. I can't do it. Yo, even the pastors being them. I remember like because when I was with Northeastern and ordination, and you got to wear that black suit and sit up on the stage. Yo, I had to sit between the two biggest pastors in Northeastern campus. Right? I'm sorry. I have to tell the story. I was so squeezed and hot. I was so, yo, then you find those pictures, you'll see my face because the heat from them and then the heat under the pavilion was killing me.
I cannot.
I was like, I don't want to do this no more. I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this no more. I mean, and don't, Southwest region's not better. It be hot as Hades.
Yeah, it's hotter. It's hotter for sure.
And they be talking about you got to wear a black suit.
Of all the colors. Oh my gosh, I do remember ordination. Like, I remember, like, why are we doing this? Like, why are we dressed up? So I remember,
nobody looks at each other like, yo, are you hot? I'm hot too. Why are you doing this?
No, but what's crazy is everybody's like this. That's all you see, like people fanning, and there's no AC. It's not. I mean, like it is all bad. Like I remember when it was Jamie's ordination. I said I was gonna go get my hair done. Of course, it's camp meeting. Got to get my hair done, everything, nails done, shave my legs. Why? They required us to wear stockings, right? We're wearing stockings. I'm wearing a white suit, but it's long sleeve. I had this little whatever thing on my head. You should see. I felt like my hair was stuck to my face. I was like, this can't be life. Like, why are we doing this?
I don't know. It's like nobody talks to each other about it. Like,
no, because I think it's just one of those things that we accept, right? We accepted when we first heard about the first camp meeting or our first camp meeting. Like, this is what we do. We just go drive about an hour away and them dudes, because I know some, rent cars, really fancy cars, to drive up to Victory Lake so that they can just floss all day.
Crazy.
And I'm just like, yeah. I mean, I can't lie. I enjoyed looking back now. Like I'm just like I enjoyed the experience. It was a culture. I mean, like it was just the experience of.
It's an Adventist culture. It's a culture that only we know, and we still do. So Leah was like, "Get that seersucker." You definitely believe I'll be in that seersucker.
For real, breathable.
I wear a short sleeve shirt. I
wear sundresses now. I'm not.
You tied up. Hey, and then like it's so weird, right? It's like you see people, you mad hot. How you doing, brother? So and so. Yes, I'm yet holding on. The Lord is good. His mercy
and right, and everybody is straight hot.
Like, bro, you're not hot. You got a blazer. You got a shirt. You got a tie. And then people don't understand fabric and cloth. There's certain cloth.
Some of them wear the wool. I mean, you talk about the girls. The guys be flossing too. Like dudes were like dressed.
Cindy said she remembered the green suit.
She remembers it.
I promise you, there's a dude that wears a lime green suit.
Oh my god!
I'd be like, nah, man, this is too far. There is nothing humble about that suit. That suit is just flesh. You wear a lime green suit. You want to be seen. That's it. I don't care what nobody say. You want to be seen.
Maybe that was his only suit. That's just his only suit.
No. He don't get no horns for that. No. If you gonna buy a suit, you gonna skip over the navy, the gray, and you only got.
You know what he's probably thinking? Green. It's. I don't know. Who would even want to buy
big Sprite can. Why are you gonna buy the Sprite can suit?
I can't with you right now.
You have so many other options, bro.
I can't with you right now. Like
I'm not going. That's his hustle. That's his thing. Yo, do you?
Oh
right?
My gosh.
You deserve it.
Yeah, he does.
He deserves
it. That's what he wants to do.
Yo, and it's serving its purpose because I remember it.
You remember it. He's memorable.
Yeah,
exactly.
And I haven't been in Northeastern since 2013.
Exactly.
That's good.
Exactly. But when Cindy Lee is like a Sprite can. But you know what's interesting is about camp meeting was the drive. Like if you took the Taconic way,
that thing
like
scary.
That joint is like you about to lose your life. Especially for me, I have three brothers that are crazy drivers, safe but crazy. They would go around that winding road like on 80, and I'm just like about to lose my life.
Not me. And they used to fall asleep while we driving back because we always used to leave that place late.
Yeah, and then you have to worry about deers and hitting deers, and then God forbid you hear. Every year there is a bus on the side of the street that broke down on the side of the highway.
They want to take their old church bus.
Every time I can remember, like every camp meeting, there is a church van, a church bus that is on the side of the road that has broke down, and they are sitting there waiting for it to be serviced. Oh my gosh!
Donald Palmer said green is seasonal, not that green. I don't know what season that green is from. That green was crazy. That green, I didn't even know fall. I don't know what. There ain't no season to describe that green or what it was.
But you know what? It was memorable.
Which makes
all the difference. But camp meeting, y'all.
Here it is. Horns for the dude in the green suit. You missed your time to shine. Ooh. No horns to COVID-19. He couldn't wear his green suit this year. So
poor thing.
Green suit. COVID-19. You get the Biden to Trump.
Will you shut up, man?
There you go.
Oh my gosh! But yes, Gina, what's up, Gina? She's like, Jesus, take the wheel on Taconic. You're right. The drive was crazy, and it's true. Every single year there was an accident on the Taconic. Like every single year.
Yo, Donnell just brought up something, and I know we need to transition.
Yes.
But when you're driving up to Victory Lake and you think you lost, all you do is look for a car full of black people dressed up, and you knew where they were going. Follow that car.
But you know what's crazy? Here's what's crazy, y'all. We used to drive up at the crack of dawn to Camp Victory Lake so we could get a really good parking.
Yep, good parking.
And shade.
That's the good parking. That's the shade. And then, but don't front. Lunchtime at Victory Lake is lit because you just go from car to car, trunk to trunk. People be having the whole meal. Them cats be bringing picnic tables.
And it's interesting.
Microwaves.
Like I don't remember eating hot food.
I remember somebody having a microwave out there. I don't know how they did it, but they had a microwave. They were warming up food. I remember this one guy, he was a member at our church, and he brought fried chicken. And, like, he didn't want people to know that he brought fried chicken, so he would go to his trunk and take out something and then close his trunk back. And so somebody saw him and was like, yo, what you doing, yo? They opened it, yo. Everybody massacred his fried chicken, yo.
Yeah, that's the thing about... Camp Victory Lake has some really good memories. Like, you really vibed with people. You had... Oh, yes, Tiffany, you did have warmers.
Yeah, warmers.
Yeah, that's them church aunties, your mother, your whoever. They came ready. Like, peas and rice, fish, escovitch fish,
like
curry chicken,
the greatest
roti.
Restaurant. It's like everything you wanted was there.
Yeah, you just go from church. It's like different parts, different church groups to church group.
Yeah.
Eating.
We could spend the whole hour talking about Victory Lake.
Yeah, it's a little bit nostalgic.
Yeah.
Because it's
Bible Bowl.
And nobody. Oh, what about? Okay, last thing. What about the Pathfinders? They say that we're gonna have a parade, and you have to get dressed up in your Pathfinder uniform, and guess where you marching?
Around the camp.
Around the camp. Like, why?
You can't march around the neighborhood because most of our campsites are in racist neighborhoods.
But not only that,
run over you. Stupid drunk.
But I was just like, yo, why are we doing this? This doesn't make sense.
Yo, but the people enjoy it though. people be standing up watching the
And following.
and following them. It's so like being it is a world within a world,
Yeah.
and it's only a world that we understand. It is so interesting. Like if you can just step back and look at stuff that
Yeah.
we do, and you're
It's like, yo,
like, what?
how?
Like if you brought your friend to camp, they'll have so many questions. They'll be like,
Why?
y'all dress up
Are we
to
doing
come
this?
here to a camp?
Right.
You put on another uniform to play drums and march around to each other, but
But you
hey,
know what?
it's our world.
What they came for are the girls, and the boys came for the girls, and the girls came for the boys. Let's
Yeah.
be honest. Like that was the
Kenyon said they would collect money during the
yes.
parade.
You would have to go around with your can and collect money. I think I did
wow.
that like once, and then I was like, no more.
I did not know that. Tag day. I don't
Oh
know nothing
man,
about that stuff.
that what tag day was the Sunday, right? I think the Sunday was tag day. Oh my gosh, yeah, that's yo. Camp Victory Lake. I'm thinking about the motels back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, I heard it's nice now.
But that motel, Bland
Yeah.
House. Oh my gosh, the Bland House was like where all the cool dudes and girls just hung out. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh.
And pray, I say, that you don't have to use the bathroom while you're at Victory Lake. Pray, I say. You did not want to get. You hold that sucker till you get home or find the closest McDonald's or something. Because them bathrooms, the porta potties, and the was the bathrooms in the Bland House?
There were bathrooms in the Bland House, but they also had bathrooms like at that, I don't know, it was like a white building right across the street from the from the motel. I'm trying to think of the other bathrooms. The cafeteria had the bathroom downstairs. I'm trying to remember where else.
You were, yes, you were
holding it all in for the day. Yeah. It was all bad, guys. It was all bad, but all good.
Yeah.
Tiffany said, I can't even think about bathrooms. I'm triggered.
Those
You're right. Enjoy.
Traumatic.
Girl, stuff is like all over the place. Like,
it's really like you really have to really like think about it, contemplate. Can my body hold this? Or do I need to go use this? Like you stand outside that thing, just waiting. Like
and there's always a line.
Yeah.
So you're standing there, and then when you go in, the space is this small, and then God forbid if you walk in after someone took a dump, it's like.
Yeah. You walk in after someone took a dump, and then you want to make sure the person coming in after you
don't think it's you.
That weren't me, fam.
And what's also disgusting is when the toilets aren't working; they're not flushing, so people are just peeing.
Good God! All right. Time to transition.
Oh,
Shout out to Victory Lake and the memories. All right,
guys. That was like a really good moment of reminiscing about Camp Victory Lake and church.
Mm-hmm. But it's a good transition to what we want to talk about today: changes, right? So, when we were, we'd go to Camp Victory Lake when we were single. Well, I was in Greater New York, so we did.
Yeah, Greater New York.
What was that camp?
Greater New York.
Berkshire.
Greater New York's camp was whack.
Yeah.
In comparison to.
It was damp.
To Northeasterns.
It was damp meeting, and then we go to Camp Defeated Lake.
That lake was nasty.
There was no victory in that lake.
That lake was nasty. I'm sure now it's clean, but it was really nasty.
It was terrible.
But anyway, you're talking about changes.
Changes. So, so I guess what's the question I want to ask? Changes in marriage. So, how much would you say I've changed, or am I still the same person? Because there's individual changes, and then there's changes that we go through as a couple, like different stages.
Right.
So we could probably want to do stages as a couple or individuals.
Well, let me first answer your question about if you've changed. I think there are parts of you that have changed. I think your core, your who you are as a person still remains, but I think there are different pieces of you that has changed. for the good, of course, for the better. Yeah.
Okay.
Would you say that I've changed?
I think like yeah. So I would say change as in the sense of maturity, as in growth. Change as in how you think and process things. I would say definitely there's been a change in that perspective. But as far as who you are as a person, I wouldn't say no. You still feel like and still, I still feel like you are the same person. Your core, like you said, um, of who I met when we were dating and married. But I think we've both probably matured in our marriage together.
So when we got married, even before when we were dating, I was, because I came from, I mean, he did too, but I think because he went away to school, Jamie was exposed to a little bit more in terms of thinking and all that stuff. So for me, I was super conservative, not super, but conservative enough where you saw it in my dress and how I dressed, and even what I listened to, how I talked or spoke, that I was conservative.
Mm-hmm.
So now that's changed for sure.
Yeah.
Where I'm not as conservative as I was before. I think a lot of times, I think for me growing up in an Adventist West Indian church, I felt burdened by the law. What do I mean by that? Like, I felt that if I did this, right, that this would be um, an automatic ticket into heaven. If so, basically works. What is it? Works by what is
Righteousness
it?
by works.
Righteousness by works. I felt like the more that I did something was the more closer I was to God. The more busy and active I was in church, the more I felt like I'm guaranteed a spot in heaven, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I walked into, I think before we got married, I was kind of teetering on like removing myself from that concept because I was a vegetarian. I felt that we had a pastor come to our church years ago. I'm not going to make mention of who he is, but it was a part of our culture where being a vegetarian was something that I felt if I'm a vegetarian, I'm going to be closer to God, right? This kind of lifestyle will draw me more closer to God.
I like where you took it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you took it to like the faith, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's great. So the faith conversation, do you feel like because you've changed and you become a little bit more liberal in your thinking in regards to faith,
Mm-hmm.
has that changed you in our marriage? Do you think that's like
Yes, because I feel as though I'm not as critical, right? When you are, uh, what's the word, as a Christian, like when you are, what's the extremist Christian?
fanatical?
Like fanatical about certain things, right? Last day prophecy and wanting to know all that information, all that data, it kind of makes you very rigid. And I think now that I'm a lot more liberal, I feel as though I'm not as critical, I'm not as judgmental, because I realize my humanity, and I realize and I see the humanity in others. So I'm not as critical or as quick to judge. And so even in our marriage, I'm not quick to condemn or judge or chastise because of that switch in my brain in terms of how I see Christianity.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like, I know I have definitely changed in regards to views and perspective of
Yes.
our church. Like,
Yes.
Drastically.
Yes.
So, like, even like years ago, like what the conversation we just had about camp meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and I would never talk about camp meeting like that because I would
Correct.
think that camp meeting is sacred. It's
Mm-hmm.
holy. It should
Mm-hmm.
not be what we're doing is right. You're supposed to dress up for God, no
Right.
matter where you are and stuff like that. So I've gotten more liberal in that way. And it's interesting that you said that about the faith, because with our children, you know, they're going. I believe our kids are going to grow up to be very, very liberal thinkers.
Yep. They probably won't even want to go to church or
Yeah.
see the need for church.
Yeah.
Because for us, when I grew up, it was, this is what I have to do. And you didn't ask a lot of questions, right? It was more or less like, this is something that I have to do. If I don't do it, then I won't be, I'm going to get lashes or punished for not going to church. And so I think that now, because of how I think our liberal mindset have changed as their parents, they're not as, or feel as forced as I did when going or thinking that I need church. I don't need a building. I don't need a building.
Yeah, and I think COVID-19 has shown a lot of people. So like it's gonna be interesting to see what churches will look like, when they open back up. Now, my theory is that, like we discussed earlier, it's going to be packed on the first few weeks when it opens back up. Just the excitement of having something new. And then I think it's going to revert back to, people are going to miss staying home, miss having breakfast with their spouses and their children, miss being able to go where they want to go at 11 o'clock, rather
Right.
than feeling like, we have to, this chore of going into a building, because our brains are triggered to say that this is the only place where we can meet God. Like it's gonna be interesting to see how that pans out when this vaccine is lifted, when
Yeah.
this vaccine is distributed and COVID is lifted.
And it's interesting as when you're married, right? When those changes happen, for us, I think it was a good thing, because I think Jamie was well into being liberal way before I was. So it was a matter of me kind of understanding, moving away more from the tradition and more about relationships, seeing that God and I's relationship is far more than me. I don't know, the tradition of going to church every Sabbath, right? And showing up to church every Sabbath. I'm just using that as an example. But when you have a spouse who's kind of transitioning, or they're kind of doing that, growing into their relationship with God, I think it's so important to support them, because I felt supported by him. That he never made me feel like, oh my gosh, like, why are you doing that? Why are you acting like that? Why are you so strict, or feel like you have to do everything this way? For me, I remember when we were at Ephesus, like, even being a part of a traditional church like Ephesus, having to follow those rules, some unspoken, some spoken rules of how you should act, what you should wear, and things of that nature. For me, it took me a while to come out of and say, I don't want to wear stockings, or I'm not wanting to wear suits. Like, I want to wear whatever I want to wear.
Yeah.
Of course, it needs to be appropriate, but just that freedom of, this thing called religion is not about following traditions. It should be more about Christianity. Who am I as a Christian? What do I feel God is pleased or displeased with? Checking the Bible, talking to people that have a relationship with God, to kind of help you in that way. But I just feel as though that when you are going through that entire growth process in your walk with God, that you should be patient, that your spouse, I would hope that your spouse would be as patient as Jamie was.
Yeah, so there's this text in Romans 12, verse 2. And as you were saying it, it popped in my head. And I like how the Message Bible puts it, and I'll tie it in. It says, don't become so well adjusted to your culture where you fit into it without even thinking. And like, I think the KJV is that it's the same text, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, readily recognizing what God wants from you. But Message Bible puts it like this: don't become so well adjusted to your culture that you fit into it without even thinking. And when every time I read that text, I always read it as in the culture of the world, right? Like, don't get so adjusted to American culture or world culture. But I also think, like, today it just dawned on me that don't become so well adjusted to Adventist culture that you fit into it without even thinking.
Exactly.
And what I mean by that is like we do stuff that we don't even think or process why we're doing it, and we just do it. Like, when and first of all, wearing pantyhose, that's not a church thing. That was like a society thing from way back in the 50s, or when women started going to the working place and they were like, they have to wear pantyhose. So we got that from the world, not from the church. But like, there's so many things that we did or that we do, and even the whole concept of going to a building every week.
Yeah.
Because sometimes some of us, I believe this. One, there are people that go to church that don't even want to be inside the building, right? And then number two, when you sit in that building, you're not even really focused on what's happening. You're thinking about, your issues, your problems, or thinking about something else you can do. But it's this interesting dynamic in church buildings where it's like, I just don't think it's like a real authentic place in some cases.
I think in most places, especially when you have big churches.
Yeah, it's like, we call each other brother. First of all, we call each other brother and sister. Right. Like, you don't do that anywhere else. And then if I'm really your brother or your sister, then we should act like it.
Yeah, there should be a brother and sister, that tag.
Yeah, it's like, and
it represents something deeper,
right.
Something that's not surface.
Right. So it's almost like, yo, how you doing? And we have these like cliche answers for it, like, oh, God is good.
God is good all the time. God is good.
Dude, are you on another planet? Like, how are you doing? But we can't do that inside that, because we're not really brothers and sisters. And then, sometimes, I was glad when they said unto me, going to the house of the Lord. There's a lot of people that's not glad to be there, but they're only acting like they're glad because they don't want to feel like they're an outsider, right? So they got to act like, and then push myself too. And now I'm not saying this. I think we should always push ourselves when we don't feel like, to give God praise and give God glory. And I believe that there is a need for a safe space like the church for especially Black people to express their emotions. But is it healthy to do it every week? That's where I'm kind of conflicted, because I believe that there needs to be a balance of in the community with your family, and then coming to the building. And I'll stop talking in a minute, because what's happening is that churches are becoming shows, the theater, and praise teams are killing themselves to outdo what they did last week. Pastor is, trying to outpreach what he preached last week, and nobody is really growing by just listening. You grow when you start doing. Like, you don't get stronger just walking into a gym. There's no forces in it. You get stronger when you exercise, lifting weights. And I don't think there's enough exercising or opportunities to exercise with the way that we currently operate.
No, we don't. Unfortunately, we don't. There's some really, 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 really some good points here. While you were talking, Janelle said, my spiritual life grew when I went away to a non-SCA college. My friends questioned me on all. That's the thing. Like, it's like, I know this, what do we call this? Example has been given to us time and time again of, being constipated spiritually with all this knowledge, and we don't do anything with it. We keep it all to ourselves. We have our own language. We have our own way of doing things, our own way of everything. We have our own Adventist ways, right? And so when we keep within that space, within that circle, it's almost like who are we witnessing to? Who are we really reaching? Yes, I know that connection between, people that are like-minded is wonderful, but to really, to really grow spiritually, I feel like, as Keith said, that iron needs to be sharpened when you are brought out into situations where you can experience people that don't look like you, they don't talk like you, they don't act like you, they're different. and what God has truly called us to be, as He was when He was on this earth.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people don't know this, right? Like what we have today that we call churches is not what was set up biblically. Mm-hmm. Like that word church is a German word that was added later. And churches in the Bible, when the apostles were starting them, they were in houses. Mm-hmm. And if it grew more than to 35 people, then it would split and they would start another house. So these big cathedrals, this stuff that we have, this isn't as true. This isn't true to what was left in the Bible, or what was in the Bible. And I think these big cathedrals now, they have turned into these toxic places. Mm-hmm. And it's toxic places where, people don't leave churches necessarily because of theology or because they've been hurt. Mm-hmm. A lot of them leave because they don't get what they want. And when they don't get what they want, they go somewhere else to try to find it. And so it's also about, I want this. And it becomes this building where it's just become these group of people that just want positions, or want you to do this way, or want you to do that. And it's like we've become less of what we're supposed to be and more of what we're not. Mm-hmm. And, competition. And then, you have these buildings, and what do they naturally create? They create people who get hurt. Mm-hmm. They create toxic people, selfish people. Mm-hmm. And it's also a show, like a weekly show. The stage is the theater. Everybody focuses on the theater. We don't even know if the person sitting next to us has had something to eat. We don't know if the person sitting next to us, what's going on in their lives. And then it's just this facade place where it's like, dress up. It's like costume, dress up. Mm-hmm. Dress up to make it look like we're doing great. And then, hey, how you doing? And then, I'm all right, but you're not all right. Mm-hmm. And you don't have any outlet to express. So, like I'm going back to, I think that it's important to have it. I don't know if it's important to have it every week. Mm-hmm. And I think that our faith grows and we become better people when we're in the community serving in soup kitchens. Mm-hmm. And then after we do that, we come back to the building to talk about what we've done.
Right, and what we can do better, or what we can, our next thing.
Yeah.
The next thing that we're going to do.
Yeah, because we're just going through motions and collecting money and singing songs that we can listen to on CDs, and then we're going back.
CDs, I'm sorry.
Oh, my bad. I showed my age. Or, coming back and listening to songs that we listen to MP3s. And here's my thing that I always say. If we try to be like Christ spent more time outside the church than inside the church.
Right.
And if you're really doing Christ's work, the church would not like you. Mm-hmm. Because the church, as the Pharisees and scribes, despised Jesus. Mm-hmm. Because he was flipping over tables and changing systems. So if you want to be Christ-like, you're going to spend less time outside than inside a building. And reaching, as Janelle said, talking to people that you ordinarily don't talk to.
Right.
That's how you grow. But, that's me.
Yeah, that is you. That's definitely you. That's something that you've harped on or tried to share tons and tons of times. But yeah, that's something that even as you're married now, those are conversations that you should probably be sharing, unless you both believe or agree with going to church, continuing the tradition of going to church every Sabbath. And that's fine if that's what you decide. Yeah. But I think it's really important to communicate those things like, I think, I miss church, but like Jamie and I were talking today, I was just like, I miss the assembling. I miss the praise team. I miss the music. The preaching, the live preaching.
Yeah, and you miss getting fresh, dressing up.
Yeah, like getting pretty, right, to go somewhere. But I don't want to do it every week. I want to do it when I want to do it. Not saying, okay, I have to go every week. I think this entire pandemic has proven that you really don't need a building, right, in order to be closer to God. I know that a lot of people enjoy it, and if you enjoy it, by all means, But I just think it's a personal thing, right? It's a personal thing within your families, within your marriage. If that's something that you want to explore, if that's something that you want to do, but
yeah, and you're saying, because I think this, I honestly believe this. I believe everybody is tired, right? I think everybody is tired, and I think people are looking for, churches become like the opioid, like a drug to make you forget about problems or issues that you're facing or facing as a community. And I know that pastors are tired, and I know that members are tired, right? And there's only probably like a small percentage of people who only go to church because they just want to make other people's lives miserable, right? Like they have a perfect attendance record. They just like to fight, and those are hurt people. Like they're people who are hurting, and we all are expressing our pain in different ways, right? And I really think that if we found a way to break up the monotony and did something different or encourage people, like I'm okay with couples, married couples, or young people, or whomever, older, whatever, couples, who told me, I did not come to church this week because I just wanted to stay home and sleep. Or I didn't come to church this week because I wanted to go volunteer at the soup kitchen. I'm like, thank you. That is wonderful. I'm so glad you did that. Because honestly, I don't think there's anything that I can tell a lifelong Adventist that they haven't heard before.
Exactly.
I can't do more tricks. I don't know what else to do. I can't make up more stories and explain this any other way. We have, like, for us who have been Adventists for all our lives, you have all the information. Now go use it.
Right.
You being in the building is not you using it. We just, and that's the other thing about Adventism. It's a very elitist, heady religion. It's very elitist and very heady. Knowledge. 2,300 days. 1844. No, you must minus 0 from the 1. And people on the street like, what are you talking about, bro? Like, you can't. Goodness. And then we saying this a lot. We don't even know how to talk to other people. We don't even know how to connect on a basic level.
Because we haven't been among the people. I remember growing up in New York, and when crusades were like the biggest event of the year, where you have you're talking about outreach like that. That was your goal, right? Having a big crusade on the corner of somebody's lot, and for weeks you are preaching down the word. You are preaching down the community that you have not even infiltrated, right? You are in a community where the only time they see you is when you go in, and then they see you when you come out at the end of the Sabbath.
Yeah.
And I know that we're kind of veering off from where we were originally in terms of what it is that we were talking about.
So we're talking about changes that we need to see in the church, society-wise. That's how I transition to.
Okay, right. Yeah. But we want to also have those conversations with your spouses, have those conversations in your relationships, because I believe that there is a shift. There is definitely a change that is transpiring.
So here's a good question, right? Has the church changed your relationship, your marriage for the better, or has it changed it for the worse? Or here's another question.
Wow.
How has COVID helped? And when I say COVID in relation to going to church, helped your marriage versus pre-COVID and your marriage, or I guess so I'm looking at COVID with staying home with your spouse. Has it turned for the better than it has with COVID, with pre-COVID and going to church? I'd say this.
Are you wanting us to answer, or are you wanting our wonderful audience to answer?
I think both should answer. I would say this. I don't love COVID, but I love Sabbath mornings, to be able to have breakfast with you, with the girls, and then we decide what time we want to leave if we want to go somewhere. I do not enjoy the pressure and the rush to put on clothes, wake the kids up early, get them ready to go sit inside a building, and then daddy has to preach, then daddy's in meetings all day. And I understand it's my job, and that's, it's like any other job in some sense. And then, you're sitting by yourself with the kids. I enjoy being able to have these moments with you, because I know that when church starts back, this is done. Unless we intentionally say, I'm not coming to church this Sabbath, find somebody else to preach. And I couldn't do that before because I didn't have an associate. We had an associate sporadically in between. And then still, people want to see the senior pastor at church. So I would say COVID has strengthened our marriage and being together, and has helped and has built our relationship. I don't know.
Yep, I definitely think so as well. I agree. Belia said, never spent this much time with, I did it already.
Oh, my
Never spent this much time with Bay. He said he started date nights in COVID.
Oh, nice.
That's awesome, right? When things are a lot slower, we're almost like you don't have much of a choice, or you don't have as much going on. You can choose to be still and really take note of those things that really matters. Crystal, what up, Crystal?
Crystal Crane.
Crystal said that her marriage is better with COVID quarantine. That's awesome. And I'm sure, I know that unfortunately the statistics have said that, there are a lot more domestic violence happening, during COVID, more than before. So I know that not everyone is having a great experience with COVID, and they're in their home. But I think the question is, if your marriage is better going to church, right? Going and doing something every Sabbath, that kind of sounds like it's more or less a distraction from the real issues, or the problems or challenges that you may be having, because church is sometimes as a distraction. You get just like getting up and going to work. You're kind of moving. Sometimes Sabbath can be the very same thing, where you wake up early in the morning, you get dressed, you go to church, you're in church, you're with people, you're talking to people all day. If there's a program in the afternoon, you'll stay. More than likely, you probably go to someone's house for lunch. And so it's this from the morning all the way into the wee hours of the night. You have not engaged with your spouse. You have not had a moment to do anything other than be in the same space, but not necessarily engaging in a intimate way. And so I feel like our church now, Sabbaths now forces us, as Jamie was saying, it forced us to like, oh, hey, what are you doing on the Sabbath? Oh, you're not preaching. And now that he's doing his recorded, his sermons, they're recorded the night before or whenever, it's even better, because the entire day is completely set aside to doing whatever it is that we want to do. And that worked, that for us, especially a pastoral family where Sabbath is his working day. And I remember when we first got married, Jamie used to say that, and I used to hate it, because I'm just like, how could you call the Sabbath a working day? And I could never understand why it is that he kept saying it. And not until I think maybe about like 2 or 3 years into our marriage, and I realized, this is a day, a work day for him, in that he's preaching, he's doing this, he's doing that, and it doesn't stop until we come home. And so I think now that he is not working on the Sabbath, really makes the made the difference. And I told him the other day, I was like, it feels like we're normal, like, a normal family, enjoying the Sabbath.
Yeah. And I would say, like, so thinking about reading the comments and thinking about what people are saying, and I love what's being said. And I can imagine people who probably are like, nobody's going to put up a negative comment, right?
You don't want to put your business out on Front Street.
Nevertheless, but I think that how I would like to see church, or what we call fellowship, transform into, is that we need to use imagination. Like, let's imagine what church can be, and how it can be meaningful to everybody. Where it can be morning devotion with your family, breakfast, and then you have like your worship together as a family. And then in post COVID, fellowship is going to somebody's house and sitting down and having dinner with them. And not the fake facade, like talking about real stuff, like what's happening in the world, what's happening with you, what's happening with your family, how have you been, have fun together. Like that's fellowship, because I honestly don't think what we do in that building is fellowship. It is put on a show from week to week. It's a and and if you notice, it's like the Sunday churches that we watch and that we see, man, they've got the capital to invest in putting on a great show. That's why we watch it from week to week. I mean, like, you see the lights, the cameras, the action. It's a great show. And I'm not saying that they're not genuine in what they do, but they understand the mechanics of keeping people engaged, and it has to be a production, right? And we don't do productions in the Seventh-day Adventist Church. There are some churches that are really good at producing their program that I've been watching. Like we were watching Mountain Rubidoux today, and what their praise team and how they're doing is, that's just bananas. It's just amazing. But all of those things are nice, but as human nature is, we get tired of things.
Of the same thing.
Of the same thing. Yeah, that's why Great Adventure, or Six Flags, as people outside of New York call it, they know that every year they have to get a different roller coaster, because the roller coaster you went on last year is not going to bring you back to the park this year. So they have to outdo that roller coaster.
Right.
And in some ways, humans kind of do that at church. We got to find a way to outdo what we did last week, because we got to keep this group.
Yeah.
And I think the true essence of church should be not keeping a group, but sending a group out. Like, a church that's moving is a church that has a different congregation sitting in the pews every quarter or every week, where you've had one group and they're out in the world just doing what they need to be done, and then you're training another group, and then you're celebrating that, because church is supposed to be the celebration of salvation.
Right.
But man, you get in there, what is it, to dwell above, the thing like, to dwell above, that would be glory for me, but to dwell down below with saints we know, that's another story. So, it's like going to heaven is great, but dealing with some of the saints and the ain'ts right now, oh my goodness, it's stressful. You be stressed out, like, oh, I don't want to deal with you today. Why are you talking about this, right? But then there's, the wonderful moments that make it worthwhile. But I just believe this, that post-COVID, and this is going to be a challenge because humans default to what they know, but I think that we have to be intentional about spending time building relationships. Because as somebody said, the whole Bible is about relationships. Everything Jesus did was about relationships and justice. Right? And I don't know, those are some of the changes that I'm going to try to create, to push for. But I think that's fellowship. Like, last point, communion in the Bible is not like what we do communion at the church. Jesus was not wearing white gloves, standing behind a table, breaking up little pieces of bread.
But we know that those are traditions that we have for formality.
Right. But what I want to say is this, is that communion was a meal that he sat down and had with his friends. And I think if we want to have communion, it doesn't have to always be bread and wine, but you can have communion with your friends. And it was, when you look at that communion story, it was
What do you mean it doesn't have to be bread and wine?
The word communion is not in the Bible. Communion just means
But I know,
together.
But the exchanging of the bread and the wine as a symbol, I think those are definitely, I'm not saying, I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying don't have the fellowship, the lunch, the meal, but you can't have the meal without the
right. I'm just saying,
sacraments.
Okay, so you can do the communion, but the communion needs to reflect what it was biblically. It was a conversation with his friends, and they ate a big piece of bread. It wasn't that little
cracker,
to
dry
get
cracker.
that morsel that you be savoring because you be mad hungry.
Listen, let me tell you.
You gotta hit that cup back.
Yo, I know back in the day, that communion bread, like that sister that bakes that communion bread, yo, that joint is really good. Communion bread is good when it's made right, like that, like homely made. That, what am I talking about? Homely made. That homemade bread. What?
Yeah.
I mean, like, give me like 2 more.
So you can have your communion with your bread and the grape juice, and then after that, you can bring out the rest of the meal. Somebody said the oxtails, the this, the that, and sit down and eat and talk.
Yeah, but yes, you are right.
But
you
we
are
have to-
100% right. But let's be honest with each other. You know, we are, even though those things we would love to see, we know that there are, you know, we are creatures of habit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And breaking out of what you've been doing for how many years, even though it may be ridiculous, even though it may be something that doesn't feel like you, or you don't feel like doing, I still think that because we're creatures of habit.
Yeah. We're creatures of habit, and people in buildings have sucked our imagination to, I think they have sucked away our imagination to create and to think outside the box, because they have told us how to imagine, or they have trained us on what to think and to believe that this is the only way, this is how it should be. And if you do it any other way outside of what we say you've done it, then you are absolutely out of fellowship with God.
Yes, Yanni, for years, like, why? Where's the oxtail? Can you pass the oxtail?
Yo, Yanni, we coming to your house and we're gonna have some communion.
But
right?
I think that I do definitely believe that I think that the conversation definitely went.
Yeah, because we started off
where
talking
we
about
didn't-
victory late. That's what happened.
No, but the part where, in terms of the changes that we've seen, and I think the changes in the church is important, because it's a part of, you know, it's a part of who we are as individuals and even as a family. And I know that the church does play a part in our relationships, right? It play in part to how spouses interact, and having programs or having platforms to have discussions like this. I know that the church plays that part, but I do think that individually, that those conversations or those changes that you see happening with your spouse as it relates to religion or Christianity, that you should definitely, as I said, support your spouse when they are probably super conservative or super liberal, that you support them and kind of work through it. Because honestly, Jamie could have probably been like, nah, I'm good. I want somebody that's that matches my liberal.
Yeah.
But instead, he was just like, you know, eventually, whatever it is that you decide, or whatever it is, I know that you're going to be okay. And so that was helpful for me in having him do that.
And I think we need to continue this conversation, because I think it's important that we talk about, if we talk about marriage, and can church can either fix your marriage or break it up even more.
You're right. But I think it's important to exist outside of church.
Right.
Like and because when you said break your marriage or fix, like, I feel as though, yes, you're right. Church plays a heavy part in some of our relationships, including marriage. But you have to separate it. It has to be separate.
And which is why I'm on the same page with you. And I would say it can break it.
Sorry, you have stuff on you.
Get my whiteboard.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that it can break your marriage if you are too involved in the programming and in the system of church, where you're not spending time with each other.
Mm-hmm.
But if church is done correctly, then it can fix your marriage if it creates opportunities for husbands and wives to spend time outside together and to do work together as a family unit?
I don't know. I feel that the church shouldn't have that much. It shouldn't dictate that much of your marriage.
Right. So if it is, it's contributing to breaking it.
Yeah, you're right. But I just feel as though that should be. You shouldn't depend on the church to fix your marriage. You shouldn't depend on the church to make your marriage.
Well, then let me throw the word assist.
Yes, you can have programs, you can have opportunities. I just think how church is done is just how church is done. But I think it's within the individuals to choose to say, we are choosing to do this regardless of whatever the church does. Because the church can say, we're going to meet once every quarter, right? The church can say, we're going to have a couples ministry meetup every whatever, right? All those things can happen, or the absence of those things can happen. But I really don't think that what's the word I'm looking for? I'm always looking for a word, y'all. The load should be on the church. Like, I think it's on the individuals that make the choice to say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna need you home because right now I know that it's the Lord's work, but I'm the Lord's work as well. And I need for you to be able to spend more time with us as a family. And the church can't do that. Like, the church can't go, like, if you were the church, if I'm the church, I can't go to you and say, you need to spend more time with your family. Like, I feel as though, I don't know.
I'm with you, and I'm on both sides of the fence as well, because I think that sometimes the church, with its mandates,
Billy is at home. Okay, go
I
ahead.
think sometimes with its mandates, it guilts people into doing things other than what it should not be doing, and that guilt will sometimes be tied to your salvation. So, sometimes you have some couples who are in relationships and who feel like my spouse has become the enemy in keeping me from serving God and doing what I need to do for the Lord. And then there's that rift. So I think, like you said, I think it's contingent on the person, but I think that there are some churches or some individuals who depend so much on the church for their salvation that they can start turning on the spouse who is liberal and who the spouse is like, no, let's not go to church, let's spend time together. And then they're like, no, there is no time for that. I must go serve the Lord, because the Lord is more important than what you want to do and just resting and sitting here. So yes, I do think that individuals have the choice, but sometimes I think that there are some people who have become so engrossed in, church first. Because we hear about all those stories, right? Like families that are broken up, and the kids who hate going to church or don't want anything to go to church because of the fact that my dad or my mom believed in spending more time here than being with us.
So okay, I understand what you're saying. So essentially, you're just saying that the church can encourage families by saying, hey, you don't need to work, or you don't need to spend more time here, believing that this is something that's going to get you closer to God.
Yeah, and perfect example. So there'll be some times where an individual will say, hey, pastor, I'm not serving on the platform today. Do I have to sit up in the front, or can I go sit with my spouse? And I'm like, go sit with your wife. Go sit with your spouse. Don't sit up here. I don't want you up here. You don't need to be up here. And so you have that kind of thinking where some people, they're in church and feel like, yo, I need to sit here, or I need to be here because this is my role. And sometimes we put the role above our spouses, our families. So yeah, I mean, we're all on the same page. So I think this is a conversation we probably need to take up We'd love to hear your comments because we've been here for over an hour and y'all been rocking with us. But yeah, I'm with you, and I'm also thinking on the other side too.
Yeah, that's a good point. Of course, you see me. I was ready for him. I was like, but that's a good point where the church sometimes, especially for those folks that feels like righteousness by works, the more that I work at the church is the better the seat I'm going to have in the kingdom of God, and that's not the case at all.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a tradition of. I think also, I mean, I'm going to speak to it. I think sometimes positions at church, for some people, not all, for some people, is probably like the only position that they'll have in life, and and unfortunately they abuse it, right? Or they kind of use it as a means of like, I am the deacon, the head deacon, and I hold all the keys to every room in this building, and I have esteemed myself, and you have to esteem me because I hold all the keys. And so it's almost like sometimes in churches we create these, I don't know if it's narcissists or these people who don't have lives.
Right.
I don't want to be, but I'm just going to state it, right? Everybody's thinking it. I'm just going to say it. Like, people who are probably not as upgraded in their personal life at work or wherever, and they feel like they have to upgrade themselves when they come to church, or feel like that privileged. I'm privileged to be the first elder of the church, opposed to just, this is something that God has called me to. So
yeah, and goes back to what we were talking about before. The church is this interesting world because, truthfully, like, what are the purpose of positions, right? And I think it also breaks up the whole idea of the royal priesthood of all believers. So, people get a position and they're the head of this, and then the people who don't have the position are looking at them like that's your job, right? And it creates this hierarchy within the building. Now, I do believe that you need individuals who are leaders of certain things to galvanize and to get people to go. But I think we need to, I think I'm going back to this. I think we need to reimagine what we do in this building and ask the question, is it effective? Like, having these positions, having all these departments, having all of these titles, because some people get titles and they think they're entitled, right? And they start, and then people hold on to titles too long where the position becomes them and that's their identity. And when they get voted out, they don't know how to live because they feel like they're the only person that can do it. And is this really like what the plan? And that's why I'm going to go back to, I don't know if going to church every weekend is healthy. If it is really healthy, is it creating more toxic monsters fighting for positions and people fighting for what they want? And is breaking it up and putting people outside to serve in capacities that they're strong in, or even weaken to get stronger, and then come back and we just have fellowship without positions, without you this or you that, you are this or you are that, where you're just Carlene and I'm just Jaime, and we're just talking about, God was so good today. You won't believe what happened when we were at the soup kitchen or when we went down to minister to the homeless people. Let's eat, let's talk, and then see you next week.
Yeah, I think sometimes it takes away the humanness in us, that we're all humans, and a lot of us are seen as robots. We're seen as a position, right? Depends on where you are in your position. It depends on your hierarchy, right? Who circle you're connected to, and it is toxic. I mean, it's organization. I think we are to expect that from church. In the way that it's set up right now, I think it's just one of those expectations that this is just something that will continue to happen until Jesus Jesus comes back. And I know that, as I said, there is a shift where, because of the COVID, where people are really taking those, it's almost like it's forcing you to think, to critically think, does this make sense?
Yeah.
Am I going to do this for the rest of my life? Do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And does this necessarily bring my relationship with God closer, or does it kind of create this fake? I'm just kind of going through the motions of it, and the only time I get to hear the Word of God is only when I show up at church. I don't have interest in reading the Bible, and church being like a.
Yeah, I'll say this. This is where.
Wait, I didn't finish.
Oh, sorry.
And church being like that high or that up. I got a little bit spirituality today. It should be enough to last me for the entire week. And we all know that it really doesn't last for the entire week. You really need to be studying, you need to be reading, you need to be talking about God and talking to Him, because that's where the growth really happens, when you are doing it one-on-one with Him, not necessarily in a collective way.
Yeah, I just think this, and this is just my thoughts. I don't know if these buildings are going to last much longer. I don't know if it's going to stand. I think what you'll probably have are buildings, these churches, and they're going to be less and less people in them, unless they become transformed into genuine community centers, where the church is now a refuge for the community to get screenings, to get health checkup, to get teaching, wisdom, and the sanctuary is just a small part. So I think what needs to happen is that the buildings need to maybe make the sanctuary smaller and make the community outreach bigger. But I honestly believe that, and the reason why I'm at that place is because these buildings are not sustainable. If the only way to sustain these buildings is through offerings and through people's pockets, that's not a I would say that's not a substantial business plan. Like, you need other streams of income coming in. And I think I think our generation is probably like the last generation that's like gotta go to church. And I think that's fading a little bit. But I'm interested to see what my daughters will be like, what our daughters will be like. I'm interested to see what post-COVID is going to be like. I'm interested to see where it's going to be, because a lot of the big churches in our denomination, and I'm not going to go, I could go outside, but a lot of the big churches in our denominations are not packed out like they used to be. The numbers are going down. And I think we need to be proactive rather than reactive, because we're ignoring the signs, and we think that if we put on a better program or a better show or better lights, that we're going to sustain it. But humans get tired of things quickly. But the thing that they don't get tired of is making an impact in other people's lives and doing stuff where they can put their faith to work. So I'm observing this. I'm watching this, where I truly believe that I don't think that what we have right now, this thing called church, is not biblical. It's not a biblical word, and what we've created is not like this whole system, this capitalistic structure of the bottom feeding the top and nothing coming back to the bottom. It can't be biblical and sustainable because God has not sanctioned it. That's just my thoughts. That's my liberal mind. And
that is indeed liberal, in that I
believe that what God sanctioned is what's in Acts, where the Bible says that the people gave their money and there was no poor amongst them. And everybody was able, you could not be poor and be in this community. And I think that is what God is pushing us towards, not these systems of of the system was birthed in capitalism in America, and you got to look at it the same way. The bottom is feeding the top, and we have grown. We are now a business, and that business is all about staying open by any means necessary. And I'm telling you, these young adults ain't gonna give their money to this thing no more, because they rather give their money to something that is working, or they rather put their money right inside the church. And the folks that are on the balcony are not paying attention to that. They think that is something wrong with the pastors. Ain't nothing wrong with the pastors. It's just that, as the title of our show is Changes, people have shifted their thinking in regards to how they view our church. Mm-hmm. And with social injustices that are happening and the church is quiet, that makes it even worse right now, because people are growing really disdained with the perception of this church that they've given so much time and money and value to. So it's just my thoughts. It's just my thoughts. There's nobody else's thoughts. Those are just my thoughts. And I think we probably need to close out, because I'm going to keep going and probably say something that I should not say and get in trouble. But nevertheless, we love you.
I don't even know what to say after that. Because honestly, the silence is deafening, because I think it's just more or less, it's like a come to Jesus moment where you really, I don't know, it's almost like on one end it is, growing up and being able to share all those memories of what church was. And now that I'm older, and have children and have kids, it's like I want them to be able to share in those memories. I want them to be able to share and to share memories of church, what church was. And so it's kind of sad and disheartening in terms of, where we are as a church and the reality of what it is. But I often think about their generation and what is it that they are going to have. And, I'm hoping that as parents, we continue to create those opportunities for Sabbath to be something that is enjoyable. But what's interesting is that as much as we talk about when we were growing up and how annoying it was for us to have to stay in church all day, it's something that still brings fond memories, because we fought through it. We grew closer together as families. So it's like, how do we say, yes, this is where the church needs to go. This is what the church needs to be. But if it is we know that it won't get there soon, and we're tired. Our generation is like, yo, shooting the deuces. I'm tired of this. I'm tired of the monotony. I'm tired of the cycle, doing the same thing over and over. But then I have to think about our daughters. Like, what do they have?
So the answer is, people don't need church. They need community. That's what it was. That's what we had growing up. We had community.
We did have community.
And we had community within the church. Like, you spent,
But that's the thing. I think we had it a lot more then, because some of us lived in the neighborhoods where we went to church, or it was just like a bus ride or two. Now we have churches where people are driving hours or an hour, 45 minutes to come to a building. And so those opportunities to connect with them, as we connected with our friends on any given Sabbath, is different now. Yes, we have potlucks. Yes, we do that. But Sabbath, it's not the same, right? And so, as I said,
because I think you're missing the community. We're missing the community part of church, and what that means is that we just have the formality. It's just this listen to a sermon, listen to a song. The churches that we grew up with, Victory Lake and all the stuff that we had and the things that we want for our children, we had community. Like the reason why I stayed in the church wasn't because of the sermons. It was because of friends and older people that spent time with me, relationship. We have today, and I mean, maybe because I'm older and I'm not that age anymore, it just feels like there's a whole lot of formality and there's no community. Like we had friends, and those friends you would go to their houses and you would bug out, and we would stay up so late and we would have fun and memories and laugh and stuff. So at least you knew like you had the formality of church that you had to sit
and you're
through.
like, it's boring,
Yeah,
but
you
you
knew
can look forward to
the community part after. Like, yo, AY is gonna be lit. Yo, we gonna go to the basketball game together. Yo, let's go to McDonald's. Yo, let's do this, let's do that. And I think that's the part that we're missing. Now, what we need to do is imagine community differently, where it's impactful to our faith. Where can we have community in the community?
So you're saying, for an example, you would suggest like, okay, you have a group of families coming together on a Sabbath. If the church is not going to create that opportunity, that experience, you say, hey, I have a group of friends. I would like for us to do this community outreach on this given Sabbath. And then after, we'll have a potluck. We'll come together and be together.
Yeah, or if you do come to church, you come to hear the word, you want to hear some songs, pastor's sermon is good. Like, give it 15 minutes, you know. Dress down, don't dress up, or dress however you want to dress. And then your small group, your community of friends, we're talking about, hey, we're going to go out and do this, you know. And church does not take up your whole day, because honestly, sometimes we do church so long because we don't have anything else to do on that day, or we don't want to be breaking the Sabbath, right? So we got to stay inside the building. So it needs to condense. Like somebody said, the preliminaries need to condense. Like all that stuff is formality.
Yeah.
Condense that. Let's come in here and do what we need. Let's hear what the pastor has to tell us, what he's been studying all week. Let's pray together. Deuces.
Yeah, I think that would be a lot more meaningful. So I think as we wrap up this conversation, it sounds as though like to wait for an organization as large as our church is to make those changes. We need to start making those changes for ourselves, for our families, for the betterment of our families, especially for the generations to come, because they I don't think they do not need us. No, let me get my thoughts together. They do not need just nothing, right? It can't be just nothing at all. You know, it shouldn't be either we are going to church and staying in this formality and this whatever, and and some of us are unhappy or some of us are happy, or creating your Sabbath experience, and not just depending on the church, the organization, to lead you in terms of whatever it is that you want your Sabbath experience to be. But you should be the one to lead you, your family, and your community of friends, of people, to aid in that. I don't know, that to aid in that need or that desire to do things differently. I think that's I think that's essentially what I'm kind of getting from this. And as we're talking, like, don't think that we're talking and this is not something that we're not currently processing as we're talking.
Right.
Like, this is something that Jaime and I have been talking about before. But as we're talking, we're listening to what you guys are saying. It's just like really, for me at least, it's really allowing me to say, okay, what is doable? What can I do to make that change and not depend on an organization to decide what I want to do? Because at the end of the day, I know our situation is a little bit different in that, yes, Jaime is hired. He is a pastor here in the organization. And so even with that, we are trying to figure out what that would look like for us. And honestly, going back to the human part, at the end of the day, we are humans. Even though he may be a pastor, he is still a human. I'm still very much human, and I'm still very much affected with things that are happening in our organization. And being able to stand up and say, yo, I don't like the way things are going. And so I'm going to make that decision regardless of what he does, right? What he does in terms of his occupation. But it's important for us together as a family to decide what's going to work from what isn't, and what sacrifices are we willing to make in order to ensure that our walk with God remains the same and continues to grow, as well as our daughters. Because I think about their generation. I think about what church will look like, what their spirituality, their relationship with God will look like from years to come. So, yeah, lots of
help us figure it out, because we don't got the answers, but we appreciate y'all rocking with us for over an hour
and 37 minutes. We thank you guys so much.
Y'all have been great, and hit us up on YouTube. Hit the like button, hit the share button if you like something we said. If you know somebody that should watch this, please share it, and we'll promise you we're going to come back and talk about what we were supposed to talk about next week.
Right. But we just kind of tipped the iceberg. We didn't even do anything.
The Holy Spirit led us in a different direction. Come on now. Somebody put your hands together.
Not that.
What is you like the horns? Oh, that was the party noise. Okay.
Ugly.
All right. We need to sign out with the horns.
You guys be blessed. Take care of yourselves. Take care of your families. Please be safe. And I know that this is for some, this was like a conversation, like you doing all this, and then for some, it's probably like, I don't know about that. Are they pastoral family? Like, where they do that at? Excuse you guys know what I mean. But I'm sure that we had a varying audience in terms of your opinions. But do know that your opinions matter, in a sense where we love the engagement, and we do hope that at the end of the day that you do what matters to you and your family. We love you guys. Have a wonderful week, and hopefully we'll see you guys next week. Yes, we're going to see you next week, because we really have to come back and talk to you guys about what we really wanted to talk to you about, the different changes in marriages, in our marriage and marriage that happens, and what transpires, and how we kind of overcame, how we are still struggling to get it together. So looking forward to spending time with you guys.
So just remember us when y'all get Polo as your sponsor. Hey, speak those things.
I receive it, Belia. I receive it.
That's right.
All right. This is Carlene.
This is Jaime signing out.
Peace.
Peace.